All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMA.Unhinged. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host Oscar Silva. How's it going over there?
Not going too bad, man. We did not have any fights this past Saturday. Those weekends are always weird, but the UFC is back, and they will not have any fans. They will not have any media. It's a very mysterious scenario, but either way, they're still at the UFC Apex, and they brought a ton of great matchups to that card, in my opinion. A lot of people are not complimenting some of these matchups. I think the prelims have some real flavor to them. You even got guys like Alexei Olenek and Latifi on the card. I think it's going to be a very fun card to watch.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's a fantastic card. And obviously, the main event. I think the main event is getting a lot of heat, and it's not justified. I think it's a fantastic fight. Whoever wins that could possibly get a title shot next.
Yeah, it features two very aggressive fighters with obvious advantages. So I think there's a real solid potential. We have a finish on either side.
Absolutely agree. So let's talk about, in this episode, we will talk about UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Yan. Talk about Bellator 286 that's happening this week. And obviously talk about the Dana White Contender Series that happened this Tuesday. And obviously a big talking point about Beau Nickel. But so let's start at the top. Let's start with a big one this weekend. And that is UFC Dern versus Yan. A fantastic fight. A grappler versus a very, very well-rounded mixed martial artist in Yan Xiaonan. This one could either go anywhere, and he talked about the finish. Yan coming off the losses against Marina Rodriguez and Carlos Esparza, off the top of my head, I think. And obviously Dern now putting on a win streak of myself. So who are you siding in this one, Oscar, in the main event?
So I really think Mackenzie Dern is a side you have to take here. But this is not a side you want to bet here. She's more than a 2-1 favorite. But here's the thing with Dern. As long as it gets to the ground, she will excel. But prior to that, it's not going to look too pretty. She's fighting a fighter that is a specialist in striking. She's a stand-up black belt. If you look at many of her fights in the UFC against very formidable strikers, including Marina Rodriguez, Claudia Gadeja, Karolina Kovacevic, she butchers a lot of these women, and it's just so ferocious. There was a point in her career where she was on a 13-fight unbeaten streak. She's the real deal. But the problem is, in the Carlos Esparza fight, you saw her get-up game is not all that good. And when she fights a superior grappler, it's just not going to go that well for her. Against the Karolina Kovacevic, sure, she can get a lot of grappling success going. But against somebody like Mackenzie Dern, she's not going to want to grapple with her at all. I think Mackenzie Dern will be losing the whole fight on the feet. Sure, Mackenzie Dern walks forwards, swings big bombs, but she's at a significant deficiency there on the feet. But for me, Mackenzie Dern, she doesn't even need a takedown. That's the thing with Mackenzie. She can just pull guard. She can just jump guard. She can just get the fight to the floor. And as long as it gets there, I think Yan Xiaonan showed in the Carlos Esparza fight that she's really got some holes down there. And I think Mackenzie Dern can get herself an armbar. I'll say round 2.
Yeah, this is a fantastic fight in the main event that we have. And Xiaonan Yan, as you talked about, a very good fighter on the feet. I feel like she's very very all-rounded as what we've seen. Some of her skills, she did get exposed, as we've seen in the past, against Carlos Esparza, but the wrestling of Carlos Esparza, and obviously we've got Dern, the submission wrestling of Mackenzie Dern is a different threat. And I believe that obviously what you talked about, the submission there is we know how good Dern is on the ground. We could literally read out her accolades and we'll be here all day. She's phenomenal. She's a fantastic grappler. And I also do agree with you that she's going to submit the Chinese woman, Yan. I'm going to call her Yan.
Yeah, I just think that the level is just too different. Marina Rodriguez, if I'm not mistaken, her jiu-jitsu is much more advanced than Yan Xiaonan's, and she really knew how to defend those submissions down there. Because in round 2, she got the control for like 4 minutes, and she's stuck in there. But for Yan Xiaonan, I just don't have that same confidence in her defense. So, yeah, that's why I'm picking Mackenzie Dern here. The jiu-jitsu is just next level. And I really think I really think, as I said, it's gonna look like Yan Xiaonan is the better fighter, but it just doesn't matter because the jiu-jitsu skills for Mackenzie Dern are top tier.
Absolutely agree. We've got a fantastic fight, as we talked about this weekend. The card all around is very underrated. We've got some really good fights up to top to bottom, but this is the main event, and we're both picking Mackenzie Dern to get it done via submission. A fantastic fight. I'm very looking forward to it, and obviously it'll be interesting because it won't be without a crowd, so it'll be back to the COVID sort of days.
Yeah, and that's gonna either help or hurt some fighters. Honestly, for Mackenzie Dern, I don't really think the crowd affects her much, and she kind of looks like she's a fan somewhat of Mark Zuckerberg, so maybe that's gonna be cool for her. So I think it's not gonna affect these fights a whole lot, but it is a bummer for me because I really wish the UFC would stop doing the Apex altogether. It's just it's a shell of the product when it's not with fans.
Absolutely agree. Obviously, the UFC has closed the Apex down for undisclosed reason. There has been rumors floating around this week. Quickly, before we move on, what is your prediction? What do you reckon is happening down at the Apex and why they can't attend?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Mackenzie Dern. So she said that Mark Zuckerberg rented out the Apex, and Dana White said that that was false. So I think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I think Mark Zuckerberg is involved with this, but he did not rent it out. I think he's just attending the event, and maybe they're trying out some kind of metaverse technology because we know for sure that the UFC wants to do fights in the metaverse eventually.
Absolutely agree. I do believe that's what's happening as well. It'll be interesting. It will all come out soon, eventually. But yes, we'll see what happens this weekend. But that was the main event we were talking about. Let's talk about that co-main event. Randy Rude Boy Brown versus Francisco Trinaldo. A very, very good fight. A stocky welterweight versus a very long and rangy welterweight. Which one are you choosing?
Yeah, I think Randy Brown is for sure the side to take here. So Francisco Trinaldo, sure, he's on a really good run as of late, even though he's very old for welterweight. I believe he's 43 now. But he's still in a good role. But here's the thing: the guys he's beating, they're not they're not the level of Randy Brown. He's beating guys like Hot Chocolate, Danny Roberts, guys like Jai Herbert. Those guys are a little lower level than Randy Brown. Randy Brown, on the other hand, he's on a 3-fight winning streak, and he's looking better than ever in these last couple of fights. So he submitted Cowboy Oliveira in like 2 minutes with one arm in on that rear naked choke, and then he beat Jared Gooden. He looked awesome in that fight. And then he took on Chaos Williams. And Chaos Williams, we always give this guy a lot of respect because he's got that one-punch KO power. And he got dropped by Chaos twice, and he still managed to win the fight because of his head movement and his boxing, and he had some really good front kicks in that fight. I like the whole Randy Brown package, and I don't think Trinaldo really has the skills to expose him here. He's at a speed disadvantage, reach disadvantage, height disadvantage. Did I mention he was also a career lightweight? He's only had a couple of welterweight fights. So I really think Randy Brown should be able to outpoint Trinaldo here. One thing with Trinaldo, even though he's on the older side, the chin is still reliable. So I think Randy Brown wins the decision here. And I just think Trinaldo will just be too slow to land one of those big bombs that he usually wins these fights with. So I'm taking Randy Brown by decision.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I like Randy Brown recently. Since that loss against Vicente Luque, bounced back in fantastic fashion, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak, I do believe. And he always has the physique to trouble anybody, as he's seen in his last 3 against Alex Oliveira, Jared Gooden, and his last fight, a split decision win over Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams is a phenomenal fighter, very powerful. Trinaldo is very, very powerful, and he possesses a lot of threats. But I do agree with you. I think Randy Rude Boy Brown is going to get it done. I think he's got all the meanings to be able to keep Trinaldo on the outside, and I think that would be the massive, massive factor. I just don't think Trinaldo will be able to get inside and land them big bombs that he's usually landing.
I agree with you there. I think Randy Brown is one of their safer betting spots on this card. Because if Chaos Williams couldn't knock him out, I don't think Trinaldo will be able to.
Absolutely agree. We've seen Randy Rude Brown in the past finished, but that's by a barrage of punches, a lot of volume against Nico Price and against Vicente Luque, and that was in wars as well. So I don't think this one will be a war. I don't think Randy Brown is going to let it get to that, and I think he's going to control the center, control the cage, and keep Trinaldo at the end of his kicks and his punches, and pretty much pick him away. But yeah, fantastic fight in the co-main event. I'm looking forward to that one in a welterweight showcase. Moving over to a bantamweight one. This bantamweight division is stacked, and this is another great fight.
Yeah, this is this if this was in another division, it would have a bigger spotlight on it because Raoni Barcelos is in my opinion, he's one of the many victims of the bantamweight division being so stacked. So he doesn't get much respect. This guy was like on a 6-fight winning streak. He was looking awesome in his UFC run. Then he ran into who was it? A Timur Valiev, and that was just unfortunate there. I thought that was a draw, but either way, he was a little gun shy in that one. And then he takes on Victor Henry, and he's a 6-1 favorite against Victor Henry. Everybody thought he was like a great parlay piece, and he goes out there and he looks awful. Like he had really poor defense in that fight. I believe Victor Henry like broke some kind of striking record that night. Like he lit him up like a Brazilian Christmas tree, and that was it was an unfortunate sight to see because I thought this guy was going to break into the rankings finally, see some of these top 10 matchups, but it appears that now that he's like 35, I just think it's too little, too late for him now. I think his best years were spent fighting lower level guys. I think his career was a little mismanaged, but now he's taking on Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones, to me, he had a really good run early on, knocked out Timur Valiev, then he knocked out Mario Batista. But after that, he took on a Farid Basharat and Saidio Kakramanov. And in those fights, he's getting hurt constantly. He's in the Saidio Cup fight, he gassed out, and then he got submitted, choked unconscious. I'm just having, and you also remember the Timur Valiev fight, he was getting cooked in that one too. That one was about to get stopped. So he's got defensive issues as well. But I really believe that Barcelos has the advantage everywhere in this fight, except knockout power. But either way, I think Barcelos gets a finish in this one. He's got the jiu-jitsu black belt. He was on the Brazilian wrestling team. I think this guy can out-grapple him if he wants to, but he usually looks to box. I think he hurts Trevin Jones on the feet, and I think he wraps up a submission, and I'll say it happens in round 2. I think Barcelos gets back on track, and I think he should be a bigger favorite in this fight, like he was in the Victor Henry fight.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I think Raoni Barcelos gets back to winning ways in a spectacular performance. I think Trevin Jones is a good fight for him to get back on track, because if you look at his last few fights, Vitor Henry and obviously Timur Valiev, and if you look at that before that, beat Khalid Taha, beat Said Nurmagomedov. He's got some really good wins inside the UFC. He's been around, and we as you talked about, probably wasted potential outside fighting the rankings. But now he's fighting Trevin Jones, and I do believe he's going to win the fight. But you predicted a finish. I'm going to go with decision, Raoni Barcelos.
Yeah, I'm really confident in this pick. This is Trevin Jones, the guys he knocked out Valiev and Batista. I'm not very confident in their durability. But as for Barcelos, he took huge shots from Henry, and he's taking big shots from other guys, and he hasn't even gotten knocked down. So I think he'll be good even if he gets hits with those big shots.
Absolutely agree. A fantastic one at bantamweight, and we move on to a one at featherweight between Sadiq Yusuf and a newcomer stepping in at short notice. And as you can see, they're the favorite by -1,000. Surely it's got to be justified because he's stepping in at short notice. Sadiq Yusuf, a fantastic fighter. He's been in the UFC a very long time, and he's proved his worth.
Yeah, so this is a fight basically just for Sadiq Yusuf to stay active. He's a ranked fighter, and he's taking on a UFC debutant. And this is not a UFC debutant with a whole lot of hype. Don Shanace, this guy's got some knockout power, but he doesn't really have many quality wins on the regional circuit. Not super high on this guy, but hey, Sadiq Yusuf should be able to style on him however he wants to. He can out grapple him, I believe. He can for sure outstrike him, and he probably will knock him out here. Shanice has been knocked out before. It's all about how Sadiq approaches the fight. He can easily out technique him, win a decision, but I think Shanice will be looking for a knockout here and get knocked out himself. I'll say round two, Sadiq Yusuf knockout. And not too much to break down here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sadiq Yusuf is going to get this one done. We've seen the debutants in the past come out and light it up, but I just believe, obviously, Sadiq Yusuf being in the UFC. If you look at his last fight against Alex Caceres, he beat an Alex Caceres who was on form, and he had won 5 back-to-back in a row. So he's going into this one a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum, and I feel like he's going to get another showcase here, and I think maybe even a possibility of getting a knockout win.
Yeah, that's what I believe will be happening here on either side. But yeah, Sadiq Yusuf, he's an enormous favorite. I wouldn't necessarily recommend betting on him straight up because I do think that Shanice has a better shot than what the odds indicate. But either way, for sure, Sadiq Yusuf should be winning in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely agree. A fantastic fight. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yusuf getting a chance to get back into the ring, into the octagon, sorry, and getting to showcase his skills once again. We move over to a catchweight bout between John Castaneda and Santos. This is a fantastic one. John Castaneda takes on Daniel Santos in a 140-pound catchweight bout. John Castaneda heading into this one off the back of a I had something stuck in my throat. Off the back of a 2 wins back-to-back against Eddie Wineland and Miles Johns, 2 finishes back-to-back, and his opponent Daniel Santos, I believe, came off a contender series and now has 1 fight inside the UFC and now looks to get another win.
Yeah, I really think this is a great fight for John Castaneda. So John Castaneda in his last 2 fights, the Eddie Wineland fight, kind of a free win at this point. But the Miles Johns fight was an eye opener for me. I really thought he was going to lose that one, but in that fight, his pressure was immense, and he broke Johns in that fight, and he gassed him out and hurt him. And I believe it was the submission that got him the win there. I think Daniel Santos is just very inexperienced in many ways. So in his debut, he fought Julio Arce to open up a pay-per-view. And in that fight, he was just being a knockout hunter. He was throwing a lot of spinning stuff that did not land. And it's a real issue. If you throw a lot of strikes intended for a knockout, you're going to be behind on the judges' scorecards if you're not landing those strikes. That's just what I see happening here. After he throws those big strikes in round 1, he's going to be slowing down a little bit. And I think Castaneda will be applying more and more pressure. I think he'll win a 29-28 decision here. I think this is a really good fight for Castaneda, who's got this cardio advantage, who's more technically sound. And if it hits the ground, I would say Santos probably has an advantage there, but I really don't think we'll see it go there. I just think Castaneda is a more patient and technical fighter, and he's going to win a decision.
Yeah, I just want to quickly correct myself. Daniel Santos did not come on to contender series, and his last fight he fought Julio Arce, as talked about, and he got a decision loss. So it's a good fight, and I do like John Castaneda, as you were speaking about. John Castaneda riding in us on 2 back-to-back finishes after his debut. He entered against Nathaniel Wood, I believe, yeah, and it didn't go his way. Nathaniel Wood has obviously gone on to do great things in the bantamweight and the featherweight division now, so this is a good fight. I like it, but I do favor John Castaneda. I think he can get this one done. Obviously, he lost against Nathaniel Wood, beat Eddie Wineland, and beat Miles Johns, 2 back-to-back finishes, and I think there's even a possible chance of getting 3 back-to-back finishes. I know Daniel Santos hasn't been finishing his career so far, but there's a chance.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity there for Castaneda if Daniel Santos gets a little too overexcited. Maybe he can find a finish there. But Julio Arce, he mainly won that fight against Santos just using the jab. So that's kind of how you got to beat him. Just be a smarter, more patient fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. If we move on to the next fight, a fantastic fight at lightweight between Mike Davis and Borishev, we're going to call him. A fantastic fighter. Borishev coming off the Contender Series, a fantastic knockout versus Justin Burlinson, I believe. No, it was Chris Duncan, sorry. And then he got a fantastic win against Dakota Bush in his UFC debut. And then in his last fight against Mark D. Casey, just fell short. It was the story of that fight was wrestling. Mark D. Casey didn't want to engage with him on the feet. And it proves why in recent years why you don't want to engage with him on the feet. But Mark D. Casey came in there with a sensible game plan, a very, very good game plan, and took him down. Mike Davis, on the other hand, has looked rejuvenated. If you see his pictures this week, he's looking bigger, stronger. But we're going to find out how that's going to play in his factor. He's coming off a win against Thomas Guilford, and then obviously in his last fight, again, a win against Mason Jones. We all saw what happened there. It was an absolute war, and I predict that Mike Davis will get this one done. But I'm not too sure how. I do like the knockout.
Yeah, I don't know what's been going on with Mike Davis. So in January of 2021, which was, it's almost been 2 years since then, he fought Mason Jones, won in a fight of the night, and the guy's just been nowhere to be found since then. I know he had a hand injury going into that fight, and I knew he was in a very bad financial situation, but man, 2 years off, I don't know what happened to him. I hope he's healthy coming into this one. But either way, I just think he's a higher level fighter than Behashla Borshev. Borshev has been shown to be a bit one dimensional. He will give pretty much anybody a problem on the feet. But if you take the guy down, sure, he can get up, but he'll get plopped right back down. The Dakota Bush fight got taken down twice. He got taken down by Chris Duncan on the Contender Series. And as we saw, Mark Casey took him down 11 times. So I do think Mike Davis can win this fight easily if he wants to grapple, but that's just not that's just not the cloth he's cut from. I think he's going to want to strike with him, get in a war here. And he's shown off that chin multiple times. In the Mason Jones fight, took huge shots. In the Contender Series fight he had with Sadiq Yusuf, which is maybe my favorite Contender Series fight, he got rocked so many times and he still stayed in there. So I think he beats Vyacheslav Borshev. I think there's a potential he gets a late knockout in this fight as well, because Borshev throws big hooks, leaving openings. So I think these guys are going to be hunting a knockout. But I say he wins the decision here. Mike Davis wins a decision here. I think he's got the higher output in there, and as I said, he can mix in grappling if he gets tagged up on the feet.
Absolutely agree. I think Mike Davis is definitely the favorite in my eyes, and he's going to get a victory. A finish later on, I definitely agree with. But yeah, I see this one going either way, but I see it going in the favor of Mike Davis. We move on to the prelims, and this is a very underrated one to be on the prelims. A very, very good match in the heavyweight division. Ilir Latifi versus Alexei Oleinik. This is a fantastic fight. Ilir Latifi coming into this one after a split decision win over Tanner Boser, and Alexei Oleinik coming into this one with a neck crank, scarf hold, whatever you want to call it, against Jared Vandera. I like this matchup for Ilir Latifi. I like this win. I like this matchup for him. I think it's a good one. The only times we see Alexei Oleinik win if he gets a submission, and obviously we've seen Ilir Latifi's got phenomenal wrestling. And if you look in the past, Ilir Latifi's never been submitted. Off the top of my head, I don't think he's ever been really controlled that much inside the MMA in his MMA career on the ground.
Yeah, I think Latifi is a straight up bull, man. Like he's short and stocky, very powerful wherever the fight is. But the big thing I don't like about him these days, the guy has no intentions of hitting his opponent. What he wants to do is take him down, hold him down, and just win the decision. The Derek Lewis fight, he gets takedowns, but he lands like 5 significant strikes in that fight. Like it's not very great, especially with the judges really looking for damage these days. Same thing in the Tanner Boser fight, just doesn't land much, gets a whole ton of control time. And against Oleinik, taking things to the ground, that is risky, but Oleinik's gas tank is not good, and he's only getting older. So I and also the fact that Latifi has basically no neck to wrap him for Oleinik to get his hands around. I think we can either see Alexei Oleinik get some kind of quick submission here, or we could see Latifi just go and hunt a quick KO here against Oleinik. As I mentioned, Oleinik is only getting older. There's no way that chin is getting better. So I do think Latifi's got the striking advantage, the power advantage, speed advantage on the feet if he wants to do it. But the way he's been fighting as of late, he just wants to get these grinding decision wins with his wrestling, which he does have a wrestling advantage here. Training with Hamzat Chimaev, Gustafsson. That's a great gym out of All Star Sweden. I think he can win the decision or he can get a knockout on the feet. Right now, with Oleinik just being so old and vulnerable, I have to, and the fact that in the Van Dera fight, he was getting lit up there. So I'm going to say Aliou Latifi gets a first round TKO in this fight.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think that Latif is definitely the favourite, and I think he get it one done. I think obviously the wrestling, he can stuff the takedowns of Oleinik if they come that way, and obviously the submission threat from Oleinik, I believe he can survive that and get his way out of trouble. And obviously, he talks about Latif, he possesses power as well, but he just hasn't used it in the past, as of late anyway. This is a good matchup in the heavyweight division, and fully won. I expect Latifi to get it done. We'll move on to the next fight. It is a women's fight, women's strawweight fight between Jessica Pena and Tabitha Ricky, or Rishi, should we say? Which one are you choosing for this one?
Yeah, I think this is a good fight for Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha in her UFC debut fought Manon Fiorot up a weight class. Horrible matchup, but since she moved down to strawweight, she's looked good. So she took on Maria Oliveira, dominated her for 15 minutes. Then she fought Polyana Viana.
Yeah.
In that fight, she got 5 takedowns, won the exchanges on the feet. I just think her jiu-jitsu is just so good. Penne, she's got good jiu-jitsu too, but honestly, she's on the older side now. She's like 40. So I think on the feet, she'll be at a disadvantage. In her last fight, she fought Emily Ducote. She got destroyed on the feet. I'm actually surprised she's back already. Her legs got destroyed in that fight. So I think Ricci maybe has an edge in the striking. But the main thing here is Penne likes to be on her back, looking for submissions. And I think Ricci will be the one getting the takedowns here, staying on top, avoiding the submission attempts, and winning a decision here. I'm very confident this goes the decision because both women have good jiu-jitsu, and Ricci in the past has not exactly looked to hunt for submission. She's kind of just happy with the positions.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I also do fancy to be for Rishi in this one. I think she's got all the means to get this one done. He talked about Jessica Pena not looking great in her last fight against Emily Ducote, and getting light up on the feet. And obviously, I don't really see Rishi lighting her up on the feet, but that submission threat, I think, is very, very large. If you look in the past of Jessica Pena, a lot of bad decisions that she's lost. She only been submitted once, and that was against Michelle Watson back in 2013. So it would be a long time coming for a submission loss, but one that I still think that could happen. I think Rishi is very good on the ground, and obviously she just needs to get it there.
Yeah, I think Ricci is on an upward trajectory, and as I said, Penne, that USADA suspension she had, it took a lot of years off her career. She's now in her 40s. You have to imagine that she's not gonna really progress much like Ricci will.
Absolutely agree. Moving on to a lightweight matchup between Joaquim Silva and Jesse Ronson. Jesse Ronson returning after his big USADA layoff. I'm not too sure what he tested positive for. I can't remember, but he is back. The first back, actually, no, he fought Rafa Garcia, got submitted. Before that, he fought Nicolas Dalby on very short notice. Got a rear naked choke, hurt Dalby, and obviously got his big win inside the UFC, but then he tested positive, and now he fought Rafa Garcia, got submitted, and now he's fighting Joaquim Buckley, who is a phenomenal fighter. But if you've seen the look in the last few fights, he's got knocked out twice in a row Can Jesse Ronson knock out Joaquim Silva?
I think he can. Joaquim Silva, that chin of his looks to be gone. So he fought Nasrat Hackprest and was it I'm blanking on the
Ricky
name
Glenn.
right now. Yeah, Ricky Glenn. Those are not necessarily knockout artists in the UFC. Those Ricky Glenn is like a gritty wrestler, not knocking anybody out. Nasrat Hackpress has found it very hard to knock out a lot of these guys, and both guys were able to starch this guy. So Jesse Bronson, on the other hand, this guy, say what you want about him, but he does have legit power. They call him the body snatcher for a reason. He went up to welterweight. Say what you want, he was on steroids or whatever, but he fought Nicholas Dalby and he dropped him right away. That was a very impressive showing. I know he looked really bad against Rafa Garcia, but maybe that was just enough night for him. That's what I'm hoping here. Either way, I really believe we see a finish here because Joaquim Silva's got legit jiu-jitsu. And if Ronson is lacking on the ground like he was against Rafa Garcia, I think Joaquim Silva can easily submit him. So I do think we're going to see a finish before the third round. But I just think with chin issues for Silva, I think Ronson just needs one, and he can probably find himself getting a finish here. So I'll say early round 2 knockout for Jesse Bronson.
Yeah, this one's a tough one to pick in the light division. As you can see, the odds there are very close in favor of the Brazilian Silva. But I do agree with Oscar what he says about Jesse Ronson and being able to knock him out. But I'm going on the other side. I think Joaquin Buckley might be able to submit Jesse Ronson. I feel like if he'd be able to get this one to the ground, I think he might be able to expose Jesse Ronson a little bit. But if you see in the past, this we were seeing in the past, obviously Jesse Ronson lighting up people with that power. So this one's a tough one to pick, but this one could be the told you so far the week.
Yeah, I like it for that. Because I think we're going to see an emphatic finish.
Absolutely agree. And if we move over to the next one, a very, very, very underrated one. This one's on the prelims, and it's absolutely phenomenal how this one's on the prelims. Arguably, or actually not arguably, these two are definitely top 15 fighters. Just outside the rankings. Brendan Allen was top 15. Kojotko was top 15, if not maybe top 15. They might be number 15 or 14. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, but both guys have been in the rankings before, but they've since kind of fallen down because there's a lot of new blood at middleweight these days. You got guys like Gregory Rodriguez, Nasruddin Imavov, Dricus Duplessis. Those guys have kind of taken their spot, but they're still super legit. They've fought a lot of high quality names, especially Jotko. This is a fight that I think will be a split decision. This is going to be a close one. Brendan Allen, to me, is not a guy you want to bet on because he makes constant mistakes in his fights. He stands with guys when he shouldn't stand with them. He goes for submissions when they're not really there. I'm not a big fan of the Brendan Allen fight IQ. And for Christoph Jotko, he does not usually go in there with bad intentions. He wants to win technical decisions, and that's not a great style if your opponent has that ice in their veins and they're looking to finish you. It's more favorable for the judges. But either way, I do think Jotko wins this fight because I just see Brandon Allen kind of falling into his traps. Jotko likes to get a lot of control time, holding guys up against the cage. Maybe he looks for a takedown. He fought Gerald Meerschaert in his last fight. And we know how dangerous Gerald Meerschaert is as a finisher off his back where the fight is. And he did just fine on top. He was able to hold that position without issue. And I think he can do it to Brendan Allen here. I think Gerald Meerschaert has better jiu-jitsu than Brendan Allen. So I think Jotko can get takedowns here if he wants and just keep the top position. And on the feet, I would say Jotko is better technically, but I would say Brendan Allen is more effective and probably the more damaging and aggressive striker. So it's a very tough one to pick, but I do think Jotko is more reliable to win a decision in this kind of fight.
Yeah, this is a tough fight. If you look at recent years, Brendan Allen coming off two big losses against Chris Curtis, and then Sean Strickland, both of them which he got knocked out. That's the only trouble that worries me about Brendan Allen. He does get clipped a lot, and then I look on the other side against Jotko. His last finish was his last finish in MMA was against due to punches ending was against Tam Dan McCory in 2016. So I believe that Christoph Jotko doesn't have that threat with the hands to be able to knock him out, but obviously the full 15, you might be able to outpoint him with his boxing.
Yeah, that's his boxing along with his grappling. I think it's enough to win this fight. But as I said, that we should be looking at a split decision type of fight here. A lot of people debated the Malkoon decision against Allen. I thought Allen did enough to win the fight because he was the guy doing damage. So this could be a debatable decision, but I will take Jotko in this fight.
Absolutely. We move on to our last two bouts. Actually, last three bouts, sorry, of the episode. Well, last three bouts of the UFC talk. And we're talking about Maxine Grisham versus Felipe Lin's. A very good one at light heavyweight. It's actually crazy to me to think that Maxine Grisham makes light heavyweight. This guy is massive.
Yeah, it's also pretty weird to me that Felipe Lin started out at heavyweight. He won the PFL heavyweight tournament. Then he went to the UFC, fought Arlovsky, looked bad, lost that decision there. And then he got knocked out by Tanner Boser. And then he finds himself down at light heavyweight, fighting Marcin Praggnell. And Praggnell, the big knock on him was his durability, and he couldn't knock him out. So I'm not impressed with Lin's. I know he lost some weight, but he just doesn't have knockout power, really. And the cardio is not good. And the grappling is not good. So it's just it's a recipe for me to pick Maxine Grisham quite confidently. Grisham, he destroyed William Knight when he fought him. He dropped him twice, I believe, in that fight. And then when he fought Jacoby, he dropped Jacoby. And that, to this day, people debate that decision. So I really think Maxine Grisham is a better kickboxer. He's more powerful. I would say he might be bigger. So I'm picking Maxine Grisham to win this fight. I don't think we'll see any grappling here. I think we're going to see two guys striking. I think Grisham is the better kickboxer.
Yeah, Maxine Grisham also came back from PFL into the UFC. Didn't get as far as obviously Felipe Lin did. But yeah, they were both in the PFL. And obviously Maxine Grisham came into the UFC, fought Marcin Tybura, lost that one, got the big win against Anthony Gulov, lost to Dustin Jacoby, and then got that win over William Knight in his last bout at UFC 271. And Felipe Lin, he talks about in his last bout, Marcin Praggnell, is a big one. Marcin Praggnell couldn't stop him. If you look at Felipe Lin's his track record, he's been knocked out 3 times in the space of his 5 losses, and that rings alarm bells. I think Maxine Grisham, if you look in the past, he has KO'd people, a lot of people, and I believe this might be another opportunity for him to get a knockout win inside the UFC.
Yeah, Lin's in that fight with Praggnell, he was getting hurt a lot to the body, but Praggnell was hurt himself, and his gas tank was low, so he couldn't really follow up. So maybe we see Grisham follow up. But Grisham, to me, he gets all the respect points for that Jacoby fight because Jacoby is so legit.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next bout, another catchweight bout between Sorolenko and Chandler. This is a fantastic fight. It is a catchweight bout, 140 pounds. Juju Sorolenko versus Chelsea Chandler at a 140 catchweight bout. Sorolenko coming off a big win, a big armbar win against Jessica Rose Clark. Her go-to move, should we say, a go-to move, an armbar win. She gets it done. And Chelsea Chandler, I believe, she's stepping inside of the UFC for the first time. She used to fight at featherweight. Yes, she used to fight at featherweight, and now she's dropping down to bantamweight for this one, obviously because The UFC don't really care about that, but the featherweight division, the women's featherweight division. She lost her first ever fight in a professional career, and other than that, she's bounced back against Courtney King, Olivia Parker, Brittany Victoria, and Mitzi Mary. This one I'm not too sure about. Obviously, Stoliarenko has been inside the UFC, had 4 fights, 3 losses, and 1 victory, and I do believe I've got to favour Stoliarenko because of that experience. But this is MMA; anything can happen.
Yeah, Stoliarenko, I think it might be. You always have to take her in some of these lower level fights, just because she's just so good at what she does. The one thing she does is that judo throw and the armbar, all about that judo, and she looks so impressive in that Jessica Rose Clark fight because she got tagged right away. Then she hits Jessica Rose Clark with that judo throw, gets that armbar right away. I really think against Chelsea Chandler, I don't think she's fought anybody with this kind of submission offense. So it's not. And she almost got Alexis Davis with it, who's been a black belt a long time. So I really think I have to say take Stoliarenko here, just because Chandler's just not really established. I know she trains at the Cesar Gracie Jiu Jitsu gym, but she's not even a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. And on the feet, sure, she probably has better striking, but it's not. It's not anything that's gonna concern me with Stoliarenko getting pieced up on the feet. So I just have to take Stoliarenko here, just because I think we're gonna see the fight hit the ground at some point, and she's gonna have the opportunity to go for that arm bar, and she's just so damn good at it. So I think I just have to take her by submission.
Yeah,
I'll say
absolutely.
round 1.
Absolutely agree. Once she latches onto that arm and the armbar, it is pretty much game over from there. If you look at her record, she's got 10 victories inside inside a professional career. I don't know how many off the top of my head by armbar, but 9 of them are by submission and 1 decision. That tells you a lot about her. She's a finisher, and this one could go the same. I think she's going to finish, as you talked about, a submission against Chelsea Chandler.
Yeah, agree with you there.
And then moving on to the first fight, we've got Guido Connecti versus Randy Costa. Guido Connecti coming into this fight after a massive victory in his last fight against Chris Moutinho. And then obviously Randy Costa coming into this one after a disappointing performance in his last bout against, off the top of my head, it's against Tony Kelly. He lost against Adrian Yanez, and he looked decent. He looked decent, all right, Adrian Yanez. I know he got TKO'd, but he had success in that first round against Adrian Yanez. His boxing was looking sharp, but it only lasted for a round until he gassed out completely, and Adrian Yanez caught him. And then in that Tony Kelly fight, he just really didn't show up. He just didn't. He didn't get anything going in. And now against Guido Connecti, I think they're trying to give him a win, but we saw in the last fight, Guido Connecti can upset the odds, and that he possesses power, old man strength. He's 42 years old. Anything can happen.
Yeah, this is a fight that will not see a third round. Guido Connecti has the cardio advantage in this fight. That's a rare situation, but Randy Costa is excellent at getting first round KOs. That's the only way he's won these fights. Guido Connetti's not durable. So I think we're going to see Randy Costa get a first round KO here. But what concerns me is in his last fight, he tried to adjust after that Adrian Yanez fight because he gassed out after round 1 and got finished. So what he did was he paced himself. That was not a good way to approach that fight because he let Tony Kelly get ahead, and he let Tony Kelly bully him, and he never got going. He's a great hammer, not a good nail. He needs to avoid Guido Connecti getting offense on him. And Connetti's he's not high level enough. He's not durable enough for him, honestly, to pace himself for to go to the second round. I just think if I'm Randy Costa, I just go bombs away and knock this 43-year-old bandweight out. I honestly think that's the way he should approach this one. But if he paces himself and he doesn't look good like he did in the Tony Kelly fight, we could easily see Guido Connecti maybe get some kind of knockout here, get a big upset win here, but realistically, we should be looking at Randy Costa bringing some honor to the Costa name. If you've seen on social media, Paulo Costa has claimed him as his long lost little brother.
Paulo Costa is absolutely phenomenal on Twitter. He's absolute Twitter gold.
Yeah, man, this guy he's the meme king right now in the UFC.
Absolutely. So regarding this fight between Guido Connecti and Randy Costa, phenomenal fight. I do agree with you. I think Randy Costa can get this one done, but if it hits that second round, I am twitching because I know it's not going to go his way because Guido Connecti is definitely got the better cardio. In his last fight, he hits hard, or maybe Chris Martina just didn't have. Well, he took too much punishment in that Sean O'Malley fight, and obviously we've seen the repercussions of it, but. Guido Connecti got that big win in his last fight. Randy Costa loves the first round finish, and if you look at Guido Connecti's record, he's only been finished by strikes twice. That was against Dana Baggerel in 2020 and against Alejandro Perez in 2014 in the Latin America Season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. So the realm of a knockout for Randy Costa, it's not impossible, but he's got to start early and get his boxing working early.
Yeah, that's kind of the recipe for him. Also, he's got really good leg kicks, but honestly, I really think we're going to be looking at a good comeback performance from Costa. Costa, when he fought Adrian Yanez, he destroyed Yanez in round 1 with that jab. So I think if he gets that jab going early and uses it to set up the power shots, he'll be getting the Guido Connecti out of there. I'll say within 2 minutes.
Absolutely agree. That was the UFC this weekend. We've got a phenomenal event. Top 2 card, there's some exciting fights. Obviously, the main attraction at the top, Mackenzie Dern versus Jan. And obviously, in that co-main event, we got Randy Brown, versus Francisco Trinaldo. We've got Rahani Barcelo versus Trevin Jones on the main card. Sadiq Yusuf as well, John Castaneda. Also on the main card, Mike Davis versus Borishev. And on the prelims, we got some really, really good fights. Ilya Latifi versus Alexei Oleinik, and obviously Christoph Jotko and Brendan Allen. Ones that I arguably on that main card. But that's it for the UFC. We have got a few events to talk about if you want to talk about them.
Sure.
Bellator 286 also goes down this weekend, and we've got one of the Pitbull brothers returning back to defend his belt, and that is Patricio Pitbull, looking to make a successful defense, a successful second title defense, second title run, against Adam Borics. This will be his first defense since winning that belt back against AJ McKee. A good matchup, but one that I see Patricio Pitbull being successful in. I think in the Bellator division, the featherweight division, I just believe there's no one else that can beat Patricio Pitbull other than AJ McKee.
Yeah, he showed that he's the best Bellator has ever seen. When you got to win over Michael Chandler, you got to win over AJ McKee. Those are some of the best names to walk through the Bellator cage. And for him to have those kind of wins over those guys, I really think there's just not many guys that are going to beat him. And Adam Borics, I got a lot of respect for him. Beat Mads Burnell in his last one, but I really think Patricio Freire will be getting himself a third round KO in this fight. He's got heavy hands. He showed it off in multiple fights, and even if he gets a knockdown, maybe he goes for the submission as well. I really like his finishing instincts, and I think he finds the finish against Adam Borics in this fight.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal fight. He talked about his finishing instincts are ridiculous. We've seen it in the past a lot. Against Emmanuel Sanchez, knocks him down, then submits him. Against Pedro Carvalho, just absolutely starches him. Beat Juan Archuleta, beat Michael Chandler, as you mentioned, absolutely knocked him out. And his only ever losses inside Bellator against Benson Henderson, Daniel Strauss, Pat Curran, and Joe Warren. That was back in the days where he was young, up and coming, and hungry. Since he's got the belt, he's kind of really looked unstoppable, except from that AJ McKee fight, the first AJ McKee fight where he got rocked and then submitted. And I do believe if they run it back, AJ McKee's got a really good chance of winning the trilogy, but we're not going to see it because it looks like AJ McKee has moved up to lightweight. As you can see, he's going to take on former UFC fighter Spike Carlisle.
Yeah, this is a perfect fight for AJ McKee to bounce back in style on a lower level fighter. Spike Carlisle was a beast in the UFC. He was so much fun. I still don't like the fact that the UFC cut him after the Billy Quarantillo loss, I think it was, or was it the Bill Algeo loss? Yeah, I thought the UFC should have kept him. He's super fun. He's very unique. But in Bellator, he's had crazy moments. Insane. He had one of the best comebacks last year. He's a very fun fighter, super aggressive, but the gas tank is just really bad. After round one, he falls apart. I think AJ McKee can finish this fight anywhere he wants. I think he gets, in fact, I'll say he gets a first round submission in this fight. I think he's leagues above Spike Carlisle.
Yeah, I've got to agree. He's so young, 27 years old. In 27 years old, and every single one of his fights has nearly been inside Bellator. He came into Bellator. Actually, every single professional fight has been inside Bellator. Sorry, phenomenal servant for him, for them, and beat some really good guys. Pat Curran, Georgie Karakarian, Derek Campos, Darren Caldwell, Patricio Pitbull, and obviously lost against Patricio Pitbull. This will be his first fight after losing. And now he takes on Spike Carlisle. And I do believe he's going to return in fantastic fashion and get back to finishing ways and winning ways. I think a lot of his fights he's finished, and I just don't see him going to the scorecards on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So, Spike Carlisle, as I said, the gas tank leaves him very vulnerable. And I really think that McKee is looking to make a statement, and he'll make it for sure. I think it's a great bet. I don't know what the odds are, but it's a great bet. I'm really confident he gets a finish.
Absolutely agree. Oh, sorry, I accidentally muted myself. Also on the card, we've got Aaron Pico versus Jeremy Kennedy, former UFC fighter, former PFL fighter. He fought Alexander Volkanovski back in the day. He went 3-1 inside the UFC, and then they split. They went ways. And then he outside the UFC, he went from Brave Federation. Had a run inside the PFL, but nothing came of it. Then came inside Bellator, and his only losses came to Adam Borix. In his last fight, he beat Emmanuel Sanchez. But if you look at his two losses, he's been knocked out. And if you look at Pico, this guy is a marauder. He's a finisher. He's a savage. He hits incredibly hard. But he does leave himself exposed. We saw that in the Adam Borix fight and in the Henry Corrales fight. But since then, he's looked pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely going to be taking Pico in this fight. He looked so good in his last one with the body shots, mixing in the takedowns. He's never looked better. He looks like he's now in prime form, ready to fight for the belt in these next couple of fights. I think against Jeremy Kennedy, he's not going to get the takedowns as easily as he did in his last one, but I still think he can get takedowns. And on the feet, he's just so powerful with the boxing. I think he's going to win a 30-27 unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm going with Aaron Pico, and I'm going to go with a knockout inside round number 2. Either he's going to knock him out in round 1 or round number 2.
Yeah, I think knockout is definitely a possibility there. Pico's last opponent had crazy body dirt, but I can't believe he didn't stumble over.
Yeah, and the last one on the main card, we've got a really good one. Harnach, former Bellator champion, against Eric Barzola, former UFC fighter, now turned Bellator top 5. Inside his last fight, he lost against Magomedov. He got submitted. In the UFC, he got some drafted, some tough fights. Movsar Evelev, sorry. Kevin Aguilar. He beat Brendan Davis, beat Matt Bazzetti, Gabriel Benitez. So he had a good run inside the UFC. He did lose against Kyle Bochniak. So he had a decent run. When he moved over from UFC to Bellator, he beat Darren Caldwell, former Bellator champion, beat Nikita Makilov, and obviously in his last fight, he got submitted against Magomedov. This is a tough one to pick, and Harnach in his last fight I believe he's not had the greatest of success since losing that belt. He's gone trading wins and losses. When he lost to Producer Pitbull, he beat Henry Corrales, beat Patchy Mix, and then lost against Sergio Pettis. And then his last one, he got knocked out by Rafion Stotts. So he needs to get back to winning ways, and I think this is a good one for him to get back to winning ways.
Yeah, he was, in my opinion, he was winning the Rafion Stotts fight. I was very impressed with his work there. He's such a well-rounded fighter. Got the great wrestling, got the big power on the feet, and I just think Barzola is going to be a step behind here in this fight. They both have good wrestling, so it probably cancels itself out. But I do give the edge to Archuleta, and I also think he's got the power advantage here. So I think Archuleta wins the decision.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Juan Archuleta hopefully turns back to winning ways. Former bantamweight champion inside Bellator. Hopefully gets back to winning ways. Also on the card, one of the interviews that I released this week or today, actually, you might see Max Roshkov fighting against Max Hamill. A very good fight, but one that I see Max Roshkov winning. You might know that name, Max Roshkov. He had a big story inside the UFC, so let's hope he gets back to winning ways. But yeah, the prelims are very, very stacked. I'm looking forward to the fights, but the one that I'm looking forward to, obviously, is Max Roshkov. What are your thoughts on the prelims?
Yeah, I think Max Roshkov is a very solid name to headline the prelims. Sure, he had a negative headline, but he's shown that he's not that doesn't define him anymore. He's gone on to get a lot of quality wins outside the UFC. I don't think the UFC will have him back because of that, but I do think that outside he's going to show that he's an absolute menace. This wrestling is super legit. He just had a really bad night against Austin Hubbard that one time. And against Hamill, I think he's going to smash him. I think he gets the second round TKO.
Absolutely. A fantastic fight. We've got Weber Almeida as well. A fantastic prospect over there in the Bellator scene. I do believe he might have to bounce back though. Oh no, he lost against Johnny Soto, and then obviously in his last fight he won at Fabricio Franco. But now he looks to make it 2 back-to-back wins. We've got Islam Mamedov. Islam Mamedov versus Nick Brown Mamedov in his last fight, losing to Benson Henderson, I do believe. He came in as the big favorite, and then Benson Henderson. Oh, sorry, that's 2 fights ago. His last fight was in the Eagle FC against Zach Zane. Yeah, he was a big favorite against Benson Henderson, and then Benson Henderson upset the odds and got the split decision win.
Yeah, Mamedov just looking to get a couple of easier wins after that Benson Henderson fight. Mamedov is one of the better Russian guys that doesn't get the recognition because he's not in the UFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, we have got not too many. We got Lance Gibson Jr., the Canadian, against Dominic Clark. He was scheduled to fight someone, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. Chris Avila. That's it, Chris Avila. Nate Diaz protege, but now they pulled him out of the fight because now he's going to box someone on the undercard.
Yep, yeah, he's going to box on the Jake Paul Anderson Silva undercard.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who's boxing. I can't remember. Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think it's a notable name.
Yeah, but as you can see here, Bellator, they put us some good fights. This is a really good card. Obviously, it might be a little bit competitive with the UFC, but even when Bellator put on these big cards, it still shows how big the UFC is, because obviously, like a card that the UFC has this weekend, I still think it probably could do better numbers than the Bellator.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, Bellator's got the edge on the UFC because they got a crowd.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too sure where this one is actually taking place, I believe. California.
Yeah, San Diego. Yeah. No, Long Beach.
California.
Long Beach.
I don't know where that is. I saw CA and I saw California. So.
Yeah, Long Beach, California. I think it's going to be a great event. A lot of names, as you pointed out on there, but of course the UFC is king, and as I said, that UFC card is getting slept on. I guess there's a lot of high quality names on the prelims.
Absolutely agree. We got one more fight to talk about, and that was the Contender Series this week. And oh man, if this guy doesn't break Contender Series records, I don't know who will.
Yeah, Beau Nickel he's just different. He's different in the contender series. The UFC has never had a guy come in with this kind of talent and just raw materials that I really think is going to be championship caliber in the future. Beau Nickel was a three-time All-American out of Penn State University. Penn State University is basically known as uh, one of the best schools for wrestling in America, and this guy was the man in that school for a very long time. And now he's in MMA, and he's taken on these these guys with winning records, and he is taking them out in under a minute. And he's not taking any punishment, and he's doing it in ways that you would not necessarily expect. He's not using the wrestling like you would expect him to. Like he's using the wrestling mixed with striking and with jujitsu. So he goes out there and gets a rear naked choke in the first contender series fight. Then in this fight, he lands an overhand left, and then he eventually gets a triangle. Like this is unusual for guys this early in their career to be getting triangles like that, especially against a 7-1 CFFC champion. So both he's legit, and now he's booked against Jamie Pickett in December, and he's gonna smash Jamie Pickett too. I think we're looking at a next level talent. This is like I think this is like the closest thing we got to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly. I got to agree. The talent that this guy has is phenomenal. We've seen it on display in two times in the Costa series. And obviously, you talked about how he transitioned into that triangle on the ground. For a guy, it just shows the level of talent that he has and the potential. He's not even the finished product yet. We've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, this guy with his wrestling will give pretty much anybody problems. Like some people may not even comprehend the level of his wrestling. Um, he didn't make the Olympic team because he was like he was like competing at like a weight class where he was like undersized. But I don't really think the Olympics were exactly his goal. I think he did have MMA in sight. He's been working with Jorge Masvidal for multiple years. Jorge has been helping him with his striking for years, and he's been helping Jorge with his striking. He didn't just pick up MMA this year. Has been this guy has been on this path for a while now, and I think he's just got otherworldly strength and athleticism that's going to take him very far. I think in the next 5 years, we're going to be talking about a Beau Nickel fighting for the belt.
Yeah, I'm going to say it here now. I think if you look at our top 15, top 15, top 10, top 5 guys, out of the top 15 guys, I believe there's probably arguably 4 or 3 that might be favorite against Beau Nickel right now.
Yeah, and honestly, in my honest opinion, I wouldn't agree with those odds, but it's the hype, and those betting lines are all about the hype. I think a guy like Robert Whitaker would absolutely destroy him. You get a lot of those better wrestlers, and they'll destroy him. But you get a guy in there like Jamie Pickett, and he's gonna have a field day.
Absolutely agree. It's got a fantastic fight. Robert Whitaker, even Marvin Vettori, a very underrated fighter in that middleweight division.
Yeah. Also, just like with Brock Lesnar, you got to watch out for these jiu-jitsu guys. You put him in there with Andre Muniz, and we're going to be talking about his broken arm or his broken leg.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic event that we had. We also, on this one, we had our guy, Sam Patterson, who I interviewed last week before the fight. And he said that the Wednesday after this fight, he will be a UFC fighter and the feeling will be exactly how it's meant to be. And he is now a UFC fighter. And it was a phenomenal performance. I think that first round against Vinicius Sensi was tough, but he gritted it through. And obviously in the second round, he got the finish for via submission rear naked choke.
Yeah, I like this guy. That he's well-rounded. He likes to get these, quick knockouts on the feet, but he's got a plan B. If it doesn't work out for him on the feet, he can out-grapple these guys. He's got a good finishing instinct. He knows how to transition between submissions, and I think it's going to take him fairly far in this division.
Absolutely agree. Excited to see where Sam Patterson goes. He said he wants to fight in December in the interview, and then fight on that Usman versus Edwards card, wherever that may be, whenever that may be, either January, February, March, May, whoever knows where it'll be. I'm not too sure they're targeting right now.
Yeah, I think the UFC is shooting right now for March. That's their usual. They go to the UK in March.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. That would be a big fight. Sam Patterson would definitely really shine bright on them prelims. Homecoming, he said that he would love to fight inside the UK fans because it's been 4 years since he fought in front of them.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get a huge ovation.
Absolutely. Well, this is pretty much the end of the podcast. We talked about the UFC this weekend. We talked about Bellator happening this weekend. We could probably talk about Joseph Parker versus Joe Joyce if you watched it.
Honestly, I did not watch a second of it.
Well, I'll explain it to you in a few words. Domination from Joe Joyce. That's what it was. This guy is a savage. He's the Terminator. That's literally what he's called, the Juggernaut, and I can definitely see why. This guy has a chin. He gets hit a lot. He leaves himself exposed a lot of the time. But this guy, you can hit him with your best shots, and he just keeps on coming. I don't know how he takes that many shots and he just walks forward. But if you put him up the likes of the guys of Tyson Fury, it's going to end bad. I do believe Joe Joyce is the second best heavyweight in the world. I'm going to say that right here. I think he beat AJ. I think he beats Deontay Wilder. I think he beats everyone else but Tyson Fury.
That is a big statement. So I'll definitely keep my eye on him. I'm very excited about the state of heavyweight boxing right now with Tyson Fury obviously coming out of retirement soon. And yeah, I would love to see the reign of the Gypsy King continue very long. But yeah, the guys in the mix right now are very exciting, as is Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, and of course Usyk, who I believe is the second best at heavyweight right now. Any mix of those guys is fun.
Absolutely, Usyk, and obviously Deontay Wilder's fighting soon against Robert Helenius, I do believe. He's going to knock that guy out, and then he's going to announce himself back onto the world stage immediately.
Yeah, cannot wait for these matchups to come to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, let's have the end of the podcast. Fantastic fights that we had this weekend. Bellator and the UFC. Bellator's got a fantastic card for what is, for what they've got. Producer Pitbull defending his belt against Anna Borix. We see AJ McKee returning. We see Aaron Pico returning. Juan Archuleta. Really good fights all round in Bellator, and we've got a really good card this weekend in the UFC. Is there any last words from Oscar before we let him go?
No, just make sure to enjoy the fights.
Absolutely. Do what Oscar says. Make sure to enjoy the fights. Get a beverage, get something to eat, sit down and enjoy them, and then think about what we're going to talk about next week. So make sure you tune in next week on Tuesday, 6:30 BST and 12:30 Central Time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, no cards to preview next week.
Yeah. Oh, so we'll just have a recap. They've been very, very short episodes, but even though we say that, we've dragged this on for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So make sure you catch us next week on Tuesday. See you later, and have a good weekend and enjoy the fights.